Okay. So now we take a look at this week at Richmond and flat track. So we're going to use Phoenix and New Hampshire as the most similar. Larson, he won earlier this year. He started ninth. The last pole sitter to win at Richmond was Denny Hamlin back in 2016. And there has only been one winner from the top two rows in the last 10. So believe it or not, even a short track like Richmond, qualifying the top two rows doesn't mean all that much.
No, and the drivers have spoken that over the years, and because Richmond, about a decade, I forget how long ago it's been since it's been repaved. It's been repaved in the last few decades. It was all about grip. Now it's become a really aged track, or it's slippery. So attacking the track for qualifying will get you a good starting spot, but it's an impound race, so you can't touch your car after you qualify. You want to have a car based off of long run. If you attack this track, your tires are going to fall off and you're going to go backwards. So it's a weird track where it's kind of like a short track Darlington, to where the faster you go, the slower you're going to end up. It's going to burn your tires off. So that's why typically now, since it's an impound race and you're not practicing after qualifying, you can't make adjustments, that the guys that are qualifying good have a good qualifying short run speed. But this race, you got to have long run speed. So that's why the cars that start back, they can come through easily because they know how to take care of the tires, which really makes this a veteran race. I mean, you look at the winners here, Harvick, Truex, Hamlin, even Larson's won. Granted, he's been doing it forever, so he's not old by any stretch of the imagination, but he's not young. He's not these young guys. So you got to learn how to take care of your stuff there.
Not a good long shot race.
Not at all. Not at all.
So, yeah.
And if you want to look at the teams, I've also got this. Out of the last 15 races, Gibbs, Penske, Hendrick, and Stewart-Haas have won 14 of them there, including 10 in a row. So the big teams win. The bigger name drivers win. That's why you look at the odds. You got to go favorite heavy and find a few sleepers long, because the guys in the middle, there's a reason they're in the middle in this track. And typically this track does not reward those type of drivers.
Yeah, it's probably one of the. It's not one of the better races to try to make money off of.
No,
because you might say, well, yeah, but then I can zero in on someone who's really good. The problem is there's like 5 really good drivers here. So.
Yep. And we're going to give you some options, some prop bets and some matchups and stuff to supplement some of that money. So stay tuned as we go on this show. We're going to give you some other options that because like you said, yeah, I mean, 7-1 and up, those are probably your winners. Probably between the 4-1 and 7-1 grouping. That's
probably
you just can't pick them all and win much money out of it. No. Where we at least could give you some props to at least bet elsewhere too. You might hit the winner, you might only win $20 on the winner, but you might hit some props and triple your money that route.
That'll work.
This is that type of race, I feel.
Just so you know, the last 10 race winners, the average starting position is 12.7, and that includes Bowman winning in 21 from the 24th position, and both drivers last year, Hamlin and Harvick, winning from the 13th positions. And it's not a race that you really go, all right, we're going to exclude Ford, we're going to go with Chevy. Any model can win this race, and it shows you the same thing. If you look at the results at Phoenix and New Hampshire this year, it was like Ford, Toyota, Chevy. Toyota, Chevy, Ford. So it just doesn't matter. This is one of those races you do not put that into play.
No, Ford, if you want to exclude some of Ford, they don't have speed on these types of tracks. So they're not going to come out and lead a lot of laps. I've looked at, out of the 317 laps in Phoenix, they only led 37 of them. Out of the 400 laps here in the spring, they led 1 lap. 8 of 400 in Dover and 16 of 301 in Loudon. So it's not like they're going to come out and lead a bunch of laps. So Chevy and Toyota, it's why they got betting odds are for them. But I also want to put it past Kevin Harvick's a Ford.
Yeah, I think you look at Harvick and Logano, and those are your 2 Fords, really, that you can't – you have to be wary of this week. But that's
why the Ford can't. Yeah, you can't fully punt on them. Yeah, they don't lead a lot of laps this year, but you also have Harvick in the Ford group, and I do feel Harvick can win this race. He did last year, so that's something definitely you don't want to fully punt away from them.
All right, so as far as our picks, how many do you think we all picked together? Same.
I didn't do too many picks. Probably 2.
No, you didn't. You only had 6 picks.
Yeah, there just wasn't a lot of money there for him. 2 picks together?
1. And let me see here. You and I have 3 out of 6. But just 1 between the 3 of us.
Harvick?
No. CJ did not take Harvick.
He probably didn't like him at 7-1, which I didn't, but He's too good there not to. Then Larson?
Yes. Larson is the only driver we all picked and agreed with. So we're going to show you those props in a little bit, so stay tuned. So let's go through, and so really, you got the top 3, Truex, Larson, and Hamlin. Now, you went with all 3, and at least you upped your money a little bit, because here's the deal. We still have 14 races left?
15, counting this one.
All right, 15 races. So you can get hot. You do have time. I mean, here's the funny thing. Again, we've talked about this before. Let me just, again, you can see this over. Actually, yeah, I don't know why I'm doing it there. Where is it? I'm going to go back to race review and show you the picks. So let's see. Where did we have our picks? They're here.
It's up.
Oh, it's up.
Oh, you're doing our picks for
from last week.
Yeah.
So I can update. Yeah, I just want to show something from last week. I know we haven't.
Go to the top.
Here
you can go to the top. Oh, right there too. Yeah.
All right. So now again, this was last week, but I just want to show you something. So I have 9 wins. Now I'm minus 139. Eric, after a win, has 9 wins. Now keep in mind he won, and he only made, what'd you make? Like $30, something like that?
Yeah, one huge.
So he's like around 960 or something like that. So, but there you go. Look at that. You and I have both had 9 wins this year.
It's a $900 difference.
It's a $900 difference, and that's based just on strategy. And and again, there's it now. Like we said last week, and it happened again with another favorite one. Maybe we're about to enter a streak of 7 straight races where the favorites win. If that happens, I'm probably going to get screwed and go back to where I was before. But at some point, you are going to have to make the decision of staying away from the favorites, or just going heavy on the favorites, like real heavy.
I almost did this one. I almost went all in on the top 2. But I'm like, you can make such a strong case for. It's just one of those. There's not a big grouping that could win this race, but the grouping that is, there's not a.
Well, who would you do it?
Favorite.
Who would you have gone all in on?
Probably Truex.
And
you just, I probably actually would have done Truex and Harvick.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I just don't trust the Larson Hamlin thing after last week. Hendrick hasn't necessarily been their best at this track. Yes, they've won recently, but Hamlin, he's done it. He's gone back-to-back a couple times, but is he really going to go back at that?
I'm going to have a hard time thinking that there's not going to be something.
Yep.
Especially if he does happen to have the best car. And,
yep.
And there's going to be a few drivers out there that are going to say, all right, really? You got the best car today? Okay, we'll see about that.
Yep.
We'll see how you finish.
This could be the payback. And Bell's another one that I almost he hasn't had a top 5 since Bristol is what scared me. But you look at him on this track, he's made 11 starts and he has a top 6 and 9 of them, which we'll get to my props in a little bit because that might be a teaser for something. But
5.7 average in 6 races. That's very impressive. That's why I had to put money on him just to make my money back, which was my strategy with Larson. That's all I did was I tried to make my money back with Larson and Bell. But it is hard. That's the thing with Bell. It's like, he's getting closer. He finished 6th. It's like you can see that getting closer. So, but you don't know. Maybe they will all put it together this week.
And that's the thing with it. It's all about, it's a team sport, right? We hear about you focus on the driver, but they're not executing. They've got speed. They're just not executing that speed. And that's the difference with him right now. It's not like he's had slow cars. They just haven't been executing over these last couple months. But you kind of can see him coming out of it a little bit. And then this is a perfect track for him to make that statement back. I mean, he's just so good there, and Toyotas are good there. And it just would make sense. So it's hard to negate him, but it's also the guy hasn't had a top 5 since he won Bristol Dirt. That's the offset. It's like, is he just going to jump in and win, or does he need another top 5 and then you start taking him seriously? So it was. I was shocked he was 7-1, even on those odds, but where he's at, I think he would have been, if he was more 9-1, 10-1. I think he'd get more bets, but 7-1 is just tough right now for a guy that he hasn't had a top 5. They're not selling him very well.
I can't imagine he has other tracks coming up that are that much better than what he's had the last few races. I mean,
Michigan might be okay with him. The road courses, he's been all right. Yeah, Daytona, oddly enough, I think he's got like the second most points scored on super speedways this year.
Yeah, that's crazy.
He has been finishing with it. No, I'm sorry, he's 4th, 124 points.
But again, when you've only raced somewhere 6 times, and you have 4 top 5s and 5 top 10s with an average of 5.7. That's just he doesn't have much better than that. So if you don't see a top 5 this week, then yeah, I agree. I probably will just stay away until he wins.
Yep. And my thing with him, I'm going to wait till after qualifying because usually those odds are going to come down anyways, even though the trend.
Because that's what we want. We want to wait.
This is where he's qualified in his Cup days. I'm going to exclude 2020 because they didn't qualify as a COVID year. 8th, 10th, 9th, so not even the top 5. And then his last 2, 21st and 21st.
Really?
So he doesn't qualify good there. So you might get better.
You're talking about Richmond.
Yeah. So we might get better odds for him that if he doesn't start well, that they're going to think, oh, well, let's bring him down to 10-1 or 11-1. But no, that's right where we want him to be. But on the season, he's got 4 top 5 starting spots in his last 6. But Richmond, he's just not attacked. Plus, like I said, you can't attack this track.
Sure.
You've got to, and that's not just him. Toyota, Denny Hamlin qualified 11th in the spring race. Martin Truex Jr. Well, wait a minute. How do you qualify? It's got him and Truex Jr. each. Oh, I'm sorry. He was 12th. Truex was 12th. Hamlin was 11th. So they both were outside the top 10. Bell was outside the top 10. So that shows maybe, and Ty Gibbs was 14th. So they're all right there together.
I think you got to wait definitely this week in qualifying. No way. If you like any of these favorites, only if you like the favorites, you wait.
Yeah.
Even Harvick especially. Because I can easily – it seems like anytime Harvick's odds begin the week at like 7-1, anytime I look at his odds on race day, it's like at least 10-1 or 11. They always go the opposite way. It's just –
They do.
He never goes any – the best you're going to get this week out of Harvick is 7-1 unless he polls. That's it.
Yep.
I mean, I just can't imagine because he's hardly ever 7-1 to begin with. I mean, that's the only thing I was a little bit concerned with were the odds, which is why I put a lot of money on him this week. It was like, all right, if I'm gonna trust Harvick, then I got to go almost all in on it in a way. So I put $35 on him this week. So I just figured
smart play.
Yeah,
and he wasn't one of my prop picks, but this is one of that's 7-1 for those out there. You want to bet on if you think he's going to win, you definitely think he'll get a top 3. He's plus 200 for a top 3. So you're getting almost Truex Jr. odds for a top 3 finish for him. Runner-up 5th, his last 2 spring races there, 1 last summer, 9 top 8s his last 10. Like I said, he's 20 top 10s in a row at Phoenix, which is a similar track. 2 straight 4th place finishes. Loudon you could kind of compare because of the 1 mile package. He was just 4th there. He's plus 110 for a top 5 and plus 200 for a top 3. So you might as well dabble into that a little bit because I feel like a top 5 is almost for certain, and you're getting plus 110 for that. That's almost, as you said, it's a 5. He's averaging a 5th place finish.
Yep.
You might as well snag a top 5 out of him for that average. So,
so
to me, it's almost free money at plus 110.
trying to figure out the difference between Truex and Larson and Hamlin. So you have Truex has been 11th or better in 9 straight, 7 of those top 5s, runner-up, 3 wins, swept 2019. Now this year has been a little weird for him because he got the dominating win in New Hampshire, 11th here this year, and 17th he did nothing at Phoenix. So really good, pretty bad, even. So he's all over the.
Well, remember the spring race though, he was leading and he was passing Byron to win in the end. And remember, he was out of tires. He was leading. He was going to win. This was the tire. He took his set in stage 1 that he didn't need.
Yeah.
And they were out of tires. Where again, tires are a big deal.
That never happens. Yeah.
Yeah. So if he had tires, he was going to win that day. So that's why I look at he has a good car on short tracks.
But the problem is he was 11-1 in the spring.
Yeah.
And now he's 4-1.
That's the one that concerns me a little. They really dropped him.
4-1. That's getting really low. That's especially when you have 4 other drivers right behind him that all are just as good.
That's where it was tough. With him. He, to me, right now looks like the championship favorite. 6 top 5s his last 8. So this track running like Phoenix, I'm curious what he's going to look like. So that's why I was like, you know what? He's a championship favorite. This track could compare. Let's go all in. However, it's going to be really hot there. I saw like mid-90s. So we'll see. We'll see if that's a little bit hotter than what you're going to get in Phoenix in November. So we'll see what happens.
And then Larson, he has 4 top 5s, a couple of wins. His average finish is 10th, 10.8. But what I like about Larson is he won this race earlier this year, 4th at Phoenix, 3rd at New Hampshire, and he dominated. Phoenix, led almost half the laps, or exactly half the laps, just about. So he's like the driver out of this top group that is pretty much had the most consistency or the best average among the 3 races. And
remember, it's not a comparable, but it's still a short track package. He won Martinsville too.
Okay.
And he never does good at Martinsville. So he is the rated, according to NASCAR and their ratings, the 2nd best short track driver right now.
Okay.
As far as points accumulated. So Bell's 1, he's 2. So
and then
it's worth noting.
Finished 20th this year. 17 top 5s and 4 wins. He's led over 2,200 laps. That's an average of 66 a race over 33. But if you look at it, 20th here, 23rd Phoenix, 7th New Hampshire. That's not all that great coming off a win. That's good,
and
6
and
to
his
1.
spring too was he had those speeding penalty, and then he had 2 speeding penalties. I think he had 2 pit road problems. He was leading. He led a lot. I think it was 71 laps. He won the 2nd stage. Then he had a speeding penalty on his pit stop. So pit road is what kept them from winning. Because honestly, I think, yes, Larson won the race, but Hamlin and Truex probably had the 2 best cars that day.
By the way, would J.J. Yaley be another one that may want some payback?
That would be the one. Remember that? This was that race.
So there you go. You got another driver he may have to worry about. Okay. And then you've got the next group. You got Kyle Busch at 8, Byron 9, Logano 12. And in that group, CJ took Byron, but that's it. We kind of laid off these guys. Here's the problem with Kyle. 8th at Phoenix, 14th here, accident New Hampshire. No top 5s last 6. Only 46 lead laps in his last 6 at Richmond, and only 2 lead laps his last 3. That all says pass at 8-1 with all those first 5 drivers we just mentioned that are all good. He's not anywhere near that kind of good at this track and this season to be in that group. Byron, I can understand why CJ went with Byron. He would have been much better than 24th this year. He had that, Christopher Bell spun him out late in the race. He led 117 laps. He also led 122 laps in the April race last year and finished 3rd, which is the best finish he's ever had there, and he won Phoenix. So I can understand that. But let's also consider this. This is important. As hot as Truex is, Byron was 4-1 earlier this year, 9-1 now. So opposite of Truex in a good way. But the bad thing is opposite of Truex, because he has one top 5 in his last 7. That was the win he stole in Atlanta. So if he doesn't steal the weather race in Atlanta, he's 0 for top 5s in his last 7 races.
Yeah, and here, out of 12 starts, combining the Xfinity, he's had 2 Xfinity starts there too. But you combine them all, he's got 1 top 5 and 12 tries at Richmond. So I just don't like. Yeah, 9-1 was. I feel like him and Kyle Busch.
It's a
they should be probably 12-1 Yeah,
I can take Bell and Harvick.
And the only reason he led the laps that he did this past spring or the 2 springs ago was because the Toyota guys, they went different strategy plays. So he kind of did a strategy game by leading laps, but he didn't have the best car. The Toyotas did. And then this past spring, he did have a good car, but he wasn't. I don't think he had a race-winning one. Yes, he was leading towards the end, but remember, Truex passed him, and then that pit stop came, and then Bella got it. He didn't have a car capable, I think, at outright speed, he wasn't going to beat him. And now you look at the season, he hasn't had the outright speed because Atlanta's not a speed track. That's a drafting track.
Yeah.
So he just seems to be going backwards. Kyle Busch, I have no idea why they have him at 8-1. He's even admitted short tracks are the worst tracks. So him being a favorite or one of the favorites just boggled my mind. Plus, he's got 1 top 5 finish at his last 9 Richmond starts too. So both of them fade. Logano was one that was interesting. Originally, I faded him, and I thought, Ford, Logano, I'd rather go Harvick over that camp. But I really looked closer. He's a better play. One of my plays is a top 150 plus 150 for a top 5. He was 17th and 6th last year, so 6th in this race, 7th in the spring, which that's why I'm going more towards the top 5 than a win. He has 5 top 7 finishes in his last 6 Richmond tries, 9 in his last 12, and he was runner-up in Loudon and at Martinsville. So plus 1,200 to me, I don't think he's going to win, but plus 150 for a top 5, go all in on that one. I'm all in for about a top 5 because he seems to be hovering around that top 5 more and more. Plus, this track is like Phoenix, and he won Phoenix last fall. I feel like they're getting closer. So I do like him out of that group. Not necessarily for a win, but I like him for a top 5.
The odds are better. And by the way, when he was 6th in the race last year, he led 222 laps.
There you go.
Elliott, now, you did not take him, but I did because I'm like, all right, finally, I've got some good odds on Chase Elliott that I can go with. And I'm just going to go. Now, look, this has not been a great track for him. It's been okay. He's got top 5s and all that, but he has never led over 100 laps in 14 races, which is not all that great for a short track. But I do like the fact of what we saw out of when he didn't have when he was off this year. We get Josh Berry in the car, and all of a sudden we have a great finish. We have Josh Berry of all drivers finishing 2nd in the same car. So that means something to me when you put Chase Elliott in there now.
Yeah, and Berry had that pit call at the end too for him to get that track position. But again, he had to hold those guys off, get the 2nd. But I don't know how much farther down he's going to be at plus 1,600, but he's also not a good qualifier there. So, I mean, yes, on the off chance he does start well, those drop, you may not want to wait. But I also look at 12th, 3rd, 13th, 15th, 23rd are his qualifying chances at Richmond. That's where he's qualified. So he's got 3 top 5s his last 5, so you're not getting bad odds for plus 16-1.
You're talking about qualifying?
I'm talking about qualifying strictly at Richmond. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not sure then I'd risk it.
That's because you're risking if he qualifies good, he might drop from plus 1,600. But
because then I would
no,
the only
you
reason
wouldn't
I'm
at
taking
all.
it is because he's 16-1. That's it.
And you could get him right now too. I didn't have him on my top 5 prop picks, but he's plus 220 for a top 5, and he's got 3 top 5 finishes his last 5 at Richmond. And that car, as you said, was top 5 in the spring. So technically that car has 4 top 5s in its last 6.
Okay.
And he's plus 220 in that range. So that's not a bad play to go plus 220, which what we mean by that is you throw $1, you went to $2.20. So you put $10 in it, you get an extra $12 and you can hedge it to something else. But yeah, it's not a bad play for a top 5. Plus, he has to win. He's running out of chances. So plus 1,600 for the driver of a caliber of Chase Elliott's not a bad play.
And then we start getting to long shots. So Chastain, I put a little bit of money on Chastain and Blaney, 2022. Chastain was third in this race early in April and led 80 laps in last year's race. Didn't fare well at Phoenix, New Hampshire, so that's a little bit of an issue, but I am getting 20-1. And the same thing with Blaney at 22-1. Second at Phoenix. We know that he could have had the second best car at New Hampshire if it wasn't for that bad pit stop penalty. And yeah, he didn't race all that well here this year, but he has been 11th or better in 4 of his last 5. And he led 128 laps from the pole in the April race last year and finished 7th. And again, we've said it. Blaney has seemed to, he's doing better at tracks that he does not have great history at this season. He hasn't won one of those races. Well, he did win the Coke 600, so I shouldn't say he hasn't, because he did. He did really well there. But he's been in a lot of positions where he's exceeded expectations, and then all of a sudden something will happen. Some fluky thing will happen. But again, you're getting 22-1. So, and I also put a few bucks on Reddick at 28-1, even though he's never had a top 10 and never led a lap at Richmond. He got spun out by Harvick, I believe, earlier this year. And that was the reason he didn't finish in the top 10. He was third at Phoenix and 6th at New Hampshire. And if we look at Reddick right now, overall, he came pretty close, of course, as we talked about at the beginning of the show last week. He's sure trending in the right possible way, isn't he? If you take a look at his last 7 races, he can't go anywhere else but first.
Yeah, that's all that's left for him.
Yes.
That would be the type of season. He's done nothing, and we've seen this in his next gen. The guys have done nothing at a track, and they come out and win. And yeah, you look at that: 35, 35th, 33rd, 30th, 28th, 27th, 6th, 2nd. Yeah, the only way now is either win or you're going back.
35th or
he's just not. Yeah, he's just not had a good past history there. But as you said, he's been good on light tracks, and he's heated up on the season. Him and Bubba, this is an interesting race weekend for 23XI in general, because Bubba Wallace is the same way. He's starting to find his finishes again, but he's just not been good there. He's just not been good there at all.
No.
So they're an interesting case. And Blaney, he needs to get – he's kind of like Bell. They just got to execute better. He's had speed, and we thought then when we talked about this, when he won the 600, I'm like, look at him now. Now here comes Blaney. He was leading the points. He had 3 top 5s in 5 races, and here he comes, and now he hasn't had a top 5 since. And this is what his team does, what Byron has done over years. They get a couple wins, and then off they go the wrong direction. So I feel like Blaney's just got to turn this around.
He's got time. So but they just can't have those mistakes, because it's a team effort, and I don't know if they've got a championship team. And then as far as the remaining long shots, CJ put a few bucks on Gibbs, 9th earlier this year. By the way, he was 80-1 in this race earlier this year. He's now 28-1. And then my only other long shots were Bowman and Briscoe. As I mentioned, I put a buck on Briscoe. Bowman was 18-1 earlier this year. He's now 45-1. So that's he won the race in 21. He's kind of stole it late, but 8th from the pole this year. That's okay. Nothing wrong with that. 9th at Phoenix, 14th in New Hampshire. He's okay, but we know another driver that has to win, and he's 45-1 in a Hendrick car. So I think this is one of those races where I can risk it. Not a whole lot, a few bucks. And then Briscoe has fared well on these tracks, these setups this year. I'm assuming that's the way you're going with him as well. And then you also decided to go with Preece.
Yeah, I thought with Briscoe, if you're going to go one Stewart-Haas for 100-1, you might as well go the other. Remember, Preece won the pole at Martinsville. He was 12th at Phoenix, so I think he could qualify well. The Stewart-Haas guys seem to be on short tracks. And Briscoe actually has the 3rd most points scored on these types of short tracks this season.
Okay.
3. So I like that for 100-1. 5th in Martinsville, 10th at Loudon. That's his best finish in a long time. That just came recently. He scored 114 points on short tracks, which I said ranks third. Granted, they count Bristol Dirt in it, but I do like that for 100 to 1. Plus, I look at Gibbs and Briscoe. These are some of my props. Briscoe was plus 800 for a top 5. So you're getting basically Kyle Busch to win odds for Chase Briscoe just to finish in the top 5. And he was, like I said, 5th at Martinsville, 7th at Phoenix. He had a top 5 at Phoenix last fall for the championship race, 12th at Richmond here in the spring, coming off of a top 10 a couple weeks ago. He's got the 3rd most points accumulated on short tracks, and it's plus 800 for a top 5. That's definitely a no-brainer. And Gibbs, I agree with CJ. I didn't like Gibbs necessarily at 28 to 1, but I do like plus 700 for a top 3 and plus 350 for a top 5 because he's coming off of a top 5 finish. He won an Xfinity Series race there, so those are definitely good odds to go their direction. And I also like on DraftKings, we got these odds too. You can do matchup picks, and you can parlay matchup winners, just like a stick and ball sports game. Like, I know my Cubs are playing the White Sox tonight.
Okay.
Bet on the Cubs. You can parlay them. So if you want to take – so you have matchup of Brian Blaney's plus 110, Joey Logano minus 145. We already just talked about the Logano stats. He's around the top 5, top 7. As long as he beats Blaney to the checkered flag, you win that matchup, which he has more times than not at Richmond. Keselowski's minus 110, Reddick's minus 120. We just talked about Reddick. But if he takes a step back, Keselowski – he hasn't been terrible. I just had Keselowski stats somewhere around here. Past the winter, 10th of the spring, 8th at Dover, 2 top 6s his last 3 weeks on the season. So you get Keselowski at 110, and then Bubba, who we just talked about, is plus 100 versus Ty Gibbs minus 135. So you just take the favorites. You just go Logano, Keselowski, Gibbs, and you parlay it. You get plus 461 odds just to parlay those 3 matchups. You throw $50 on that, you're making $280 just on those 3. You can even throw $20 on it and make 112. So your odds this week may be better served to do matchup picks and then also pick some of those favorites, knowing that I might not win much on these favorites, but I can win some of these matchups and really take that money and roll it into next week. But just 3 matchups right there and those are 3 favorable ones that I think we could agree Logano should beat Blaney to the finish line. I'm not saying Blaney can't get a top 10, but we just talked about Logano, and it's all about just reaching the finish line before the other. It doesn't matter what else happens. You just got to beat that driver head-to-head and just make it to the finish line before him. Keselowski, see what he can do, and then Gibbs beat Wallace.
How about taking Elliott over Kyle Busch?
That's another one. That's another one you can take
Elliott's
a look at.
plus 100.
Yeah, I'll even up even more. Yeah, let me I got this right here. So, they even have qualifying odds now. This just popped up. This wasn't on here. I'm sorry. The reason they got qualifying odds is I'm on Formula One.
What was that?
I was on Formula. I was like qualifying odds. I was on Formula One. Yeah. So if you go Elliott, where'd they go? Keselowski, Gibbs, and Logano. There's the parlay. $10 will win you 112. 50 will win you 561 just on those 4.
Yeah. Yeah, I would probably, I mean, that would be, the one that sticks out the most for me would probably be Elliott, to tell you the truth.
And is that screen up where everybody can see it?
Yeah.
So if you just click on a couple of, it'll put the.
Click on a driver or both, or the.
No, just click on Logano there.
Oh.
Just click on him. And then click on Keselowski, 2 down. And then click on Elliott, 2 down from there. And then where that screen is the bet slip, if you scroll down, and there's the parlay. See, it's plus 545. And you can play around with it. Then you can see what
$10, you make 64.
Yep. And then scroll down to the other one that I mentioned.
Should be 54, shouldn't it? Yeah, 54.
That'd be the payout would be, yeah.
What are we saying?
And then scroll to one more down on the below Elliott. There it is, the Ty Gibbs. Oh, they have Harvick and Byron. Now, I'd even throw Harvick over Byron. I think Harvick can beat Byron. And there you go. And now scroll to your
20 to 1.
There you go.
So if you put $10 down, $200.
That's easy money right there.
Easy money. Yeah. Okay.
Granted, anything can happen, but if you don't like 4-1 and 5-1, but you like those drivers,
Sure.
and you get matchups, you can. It's just another avenue. We've not really talked much about it on the show. That we'll bring more to it because we're already breaking down how they finish. So if we think they're going to finish top 3, top 5 matchups, you might as well double down. It's more than just an outright winner in this world. So,
and by the way, Ford's 250. And again, I think this is fairly equal because you are getting basically you are having to rely on Harvick and Logano, but it's been pretty even, you know. So I really wouldn't. This wouldn't be a bad one to take. Again, you could do the same thing. You can probably even put that into a parlay.
Yeah, you just play around, and then we're at winner. I don't know if you have that up earlier where it says winner. It says team props, driver prop winner.
Yep.
There's the top 3 and top 5s right there.
Yep, right there. So, all right. Let's see. So your top 3 picks?
I'm gonna have to go Truex, Larson, Harvick.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say Briscoe is my long shot. I just got a feeling about Briscoe this week.
Okay. Chase Briscoe. Boy, things were going so well for him too.
That would be typical NASCAR if Chase Briscoe gets this one. That would talk about a storyline going into next week. Well, that would be one.
That was actually, I don't know when it was, because I got rid of him after the 14th race. And I stuck with him as long as I could, but that was a real bummer because again, I don't remember. He had that run of 3 straight top 5s.
Yeah.
After what? Race 10 or something. And then is that must have been right around when they had the suspensions and they have the penalty too, right?
Yep. The 6-race suspension. Oh yeah, they got the levy headed down.
So I don't see how you blame that on Chase Briscoe.
No.
So, you know, hey, you know what? Who knows? Maybe that's all that they need is if they get a win.
Sometimes we saw what he did in the playoffs last year.
Yeah. So, because right now they're almost like you would think that they're all in this mood of let's just get the season over with in a way.
Yep.
But a win could change everything. So
would change it. And they're transitioning. I mean, he's going to be the lead driver, right? I mean, Harvick's going away. He's retiring. Josh Berry is not a full-time Cup driver, so he's got to still be learning. We don't know what they're doing with Almirola and Priest yet, but even if those two come back, Briscoe's the only other one that's won consistently. He's he won in Phoenix last year. So
that's it.
The 14 car, that's it. He's your lead driver, so you kind of have to see some out of him.
So they got
that crew chief change.
They're just switching Berry for Harvick.
Barry's going to Harvick. So that 14 car, which was the initial staple for Stewart-Haas Racing, that was Tony Stewart. That 14 car is going to be where Harvick, there's no doubt about it, Harvick is the lead car of that team.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be the 14 next year. It's going to be Briscoe.
So why don't they, I mean, shouldn't they just clean house and just go Briscoe and 3 new drivers?
You kind of get the hint that might end up happening. It's Priest and is a 1-year deal. The only reason I think the Almirola thing they want him around is he brings that sponsor. Smithfield loves Almirola.
Doesn't that get old? Come on.
And they need, because you got to think with them too. They just lost Anheuser-Busch. That's going to Chastain. You're losing sponsorship. You're losing your A driver. You kind of need the sponsorship of Smithfield to stay. It's just does Almirola want to keep going? Because the writing's on the wall. He's not going to be there much longer, if at all, next year.
Yeah,
so
let's get it over
with. It's kind of pull the Band-Aid off. You are what you are. Briscoe be the leader. Get him Barry and 2 more drivers, and off you go.
So next week is Michigan?
Next week's Michigan.
And so we haven't seen – it's 1 a year now, right, Michigan?
Yep.
And so do you remember if the race was any good last year?
Yeah, it was pretty good. It was better with this next gen. And the most comparable would be Fontana, but they're not really the same because the surfaces are completely different. Michigan's been repaved in the last few years where Fontana was original. So they're just suddenly shaped.
Harvick holding.
Yeah, Harvick won last year. Yep.
Yeah, it looked like it because you had 6 drivers that all led at least 22 laps, and the leading driver led 38, and that was Hamlin and Harvick. So that showed you how
wide open.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's good. All right, that's next week, and then we still have a little ways to go before playoff time. This week, I believe CJ. I think this is the last F1 race for a month.
Yeah, then they take their summer break. No, they've had too many races this year.
Jesus.
I looked at their odds when I was on there. The second best odds is plus 900. It is just Verstappen and everybody else.
I mean, seriously, if you're the type of gambler, because I'm not, but if you're the type of gambler that does not care about wagering and giving away, 300 to make 100, how is that? How, after the third or fourth race even, how would you not just do F1 and just put, hey, all right, I'll put 30,000 on Verstappen and I'll make 10 grand. I know, I don't have to worry.
Yeah.
He'll win.
Yep,
I got the money.
That's pretty much where it is.
I would probably do that, and I don't ever do it like that. But if I had the money, I'd probably be like, yeah, I'll just keep betting Max Verstappen. I mean, and even if he loses one week, I'll come back and I'll do it for 10 straight races, and I'm sure I'll still make money.
Yeah, you'll win. Like right now, he's minus 360.
I'm surprised he's not minus 600.
I'm too, because if you put 500 on him, you're going to win $638. So granted, like you said, you're throwing your money away to win your money back. But he's won 7 straight races or 6 straight races, and he's won the last 2 at this track, so it's pretty clear.
Again, that type of betting is just about, do you have the money? That's all it is.
Yep.
But if you lose, of course, and you put up $400 to try to make $100, you've lost $400 instead of just losing 100. But again, if you have the money, I do it. I don't care if I make a quick $100. I'll put up $400. I'm not going to lose. How can I lose? He never loses. So that's how I'd play it. But anyway,
or even a minus 700 for a top 6.
Yeah,
I mean, he's been in the top 6. I feel like every day of his life. It seems like
that's why I can't. That tells me that people are not doing that enough.
No,
because if they were, it would be at 600 or 700.
Yep.
I don't know why, but all right. Okay, we'll talk again as usual next week, Eric. Appreciate it.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right, and we appreciate you guys. Don't forget, sign up at Discord and like the video if you're still here watching.